Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Women's Football Spotlight. Myself, Dan Conway, and co-host Ross Ballack. We're here for another week, and we're going to talk about our best 11, our best team from the WSL season, 24-25 season, who are in our top teams, our top starting 11. We'll also discuss worthy mentions, the latest England squad. We'll go through those names, and we'll cover Everton, Wolves, and Blackburn, and a few other things. So let's get started straight into it, Ross. Let's start with our goalkeepers. So I reckon we're both. I think everyone's going to have this, but who is your number one, your goalkeeper starting your team?
I've gone with Tullis-Joyce at United. I think not only she had an exceptional season, but like in the context, I think as a club, Man United, their women's team have had a great season this season. I was at the Emirates last season when they played Arsenal, and there were people there waving like giant P45s at Mark Skinner, like in the away section. And you thought to yourself, like, oh, things are getting quite volatile here. And then obviously they lost Mary Earps, and you thought, what's going to happen? But like Tullis-Joyce, in fact, you got to give a shout out to the entire defensive side of the team. They have been absolutely brilliant this season. But yeah, I think just the context of how disappointing United were as a team last season, and then for Tullis-Joyce have to come in and fill the boots of Mary Earps, possibly the most famous female footballer in the UK, and probably, well, definitely the favourite. She won Sports Personality that final season at United, and yeah, it was just, I think in that context, the work that defence has done, obviously they work as a unit, but I think she's been exceptional this season.
Yeah, agreed. I think no one could have predicted it because she was Mary Earp's understudy, the season before, and it's very rare where you get an understudy who gets the full opportunity to kind of prove themselves. But she got the Golden Glove joint with Hannah Hampton, and she did it in a Man United are a good team, but they've not got the quality of squad as Chelsea. And so, yeah, I agree. The defensive unit as a whole was brilliant, but she has been a pleasant surprise for everyone. No one would have predicted how good she would have done. It was big boots to fill replacing Mary Earps, but she has done an amazing job. She's different, but she's done an amazing job. So, yeah, I think we're agreed as number one.
Big gloves to fill.
Yeah, credit for the pun.
Okay. I love that. You're like, yeah, whatever.
No, it's good. No. So I think we're all agreed on that one. Defense. Do you want to give us? I've gone forward, the back, left back, right back, two centre backs.
Okay, I've gone three at the back.
Okay.
So my three, I'll give you the three. Two of them are like, well, yeah. I've got Maya Le Tissier at United. I've gone with Millie Bright, and I've gone with Sandy Baltimore at Chelsea as my three.
I think we've got similar. I've got Lucy Bronze as right back. Millie, I've got a Millie, but not Millie Bright. I've got Millie Turner as centre back, along with Le Tissier. So I think we've got that Man United. It was hard not to have some Man United defenders and Chelsea defenders.
Yeah.
And I've got Sandy Baltimore as well. Should we start with Sandy Baltimore? So why have you chosen her? And I'll explain why I've chosen her as well.
Her first season in the WSL. I think we spoke about it before, but I think we underestimate how difficult it is for players to move, not just clubs in her case, but we're talking, this is a new move to different country, different language. The club itself, or as successful as they have been this season, and I'm sure we'll get on to that, like there was no guarantees, Emma Hayes being there so long. I guess the move was eased by the fact that it was Sonia Bombastor who came over and took that job. But I just think this season she's just been brilliant because she's arrived as a forward essentially, and has played everywhere down that left hand side. And I think she's really adapted not just to the WSL and the UK and the language and new teammates, but having to do that playing multiple positions. I think in WSL squads have players who could play multiple positions, positions, I think, well, in any squad, I think that is a massive asset to the individual player, but to the squad as a whole as well. And so for me, again, in that context, that's why I've put her in my team of the year.
Yeah, agreed. She's been excellent. I like how she scored that cracker from outside the box
Yeah,
just a few weeks back. And you're right, she's owned that left side. She doesn't mind to drive down. She's strong and she gets in a good cross. She's just in a really difficult, brilliant Chelsea team. She's kind of forced her way in and made it difficult for Neve Charles, and they've kind of rotated between them playing that
yeah.
left hand side, depending on the formation and who they're playing. But yeah, she's been a great player, Baltimore.
But
Okay,
she
go
allows that flexibility. So like we've spoken a couple of times, both on the pod and to each other, about how without Alex Greenwood this season, how it's frustrating to see like right footers play on the left for England,
on.
and I, it's fine if it works, but to have that natural left hand side it really does help. It allows players to play quicker, play one touch. I mean, we talked about it. I think all through last summer watching right footers play at left back for England in the men's Euros and how frustrating that was and how that clearly wasn't working. And obviously you get the same with Neve Charles. You don't have a natural left footer, or at least to me, she doesn't look naturally left footed. And so, not only does it allow you to have that rotation without the quality dropping, but Baltimore being able to move up and down that left flank, it also allows them to play three at the back when they need, or four at the back, and still keep that balance. And I think that's really, it's not rocket science to say like, oh, if you have the best squad and you can rotate, that's really going to help you. And obviously, a big part of that is down to the fact that they probably they will have one of the top two budgets in the league. But yeah, for me, I just think she's been able to be adaptable, which has meant that that adaptability has allowed them to rotate without losing the balance. And like you said, she has scored goals, she has provided assists, and I think in the first season, I think that's pretty much the most you can ask from a new signing coming in. It makes you wonder, like next season, will they buy a naturally left-footed player for that side, or will they continue to use her in various positions? And as she settles, is she going to get any better? And I would assume that she will, and that could be a scary prospect for anybody playing down the right hand side of WSL teams next season.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see. So next player, we've both got Maya Le Tissier. So should we start on her? I personally thought she obviously became the club captain, so there's that
Yeah,
responsibility, and I feel like she thrived under it. Like she took it. She's quite, from all accounts, she's quite a shy character, but I think she's stood up to the responsibility and been more vocal in the dressing room, been a leader on the pitch. She seems to have thrived under that pressure,
yeah,
and I think she's definitely seems to have improved. She's like we saw a couple of years ago when she was at Brighton. You could see the talent. You can see why Man United bought her, but now she's fulfilling that potential and is becoming a decent centre back. And she's got a wicked cross in her. Like she can pin the ball, and they've scored some goals that way. What about you? Thoughts for Le Tissier? Why you selected her?
yeah. I just think she's had a real solid season, and the players, their players are most useful when they're available. I think she started and played 90 minutes in pretty much every
I
single
was
league
going to tell
game
you
this
she's
season.
played 22 league games.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure she started and done all 90 minutes in those as well,
Wow.
which, obviously from a durability perspective has been great. It'll be interesting to see with them having Champions League football next season, whether that changes, because they are going to need some depth to get through those European games as well. Like I said, they are most important when they are available. And so her durability and availability this season is massive. She scored 3 goals this season, provided an assist, mostly playing centre back, has won, a big proportion of her aerial duels, big proportion of ground duels. Just, as I said, it is really hard to kind of pick one player that stands out within that unit that's been so good as a five with the goalkeeper at United this season. But for me, she's the one that stood out. I was a bit frustrated that she wasn't given any opportunity or many opportunities with England.
Mm.
And obviously with Greenwood coming back now, that that's an extra player for her to fight with. I think she spent the season playing at centre back for United. Um, when she does get any minutes for England, it seems to be in fullback role. So
Yeah.
it, and that's like most things in life, that's subjective to Serena Wiegand. She's obviously decided that that's how she's going to use her, and that's fine. But for me, like I said, it was really hard to pick one or two players out of that unit, but she's the one that stood out for me. And I think that durability, that availability, that's something people might say, what, just she started every game and she was available to play every game, big deal. But not many players do that for an
Yeah.
entire season. At any level, just because it's tough getting through a football season. And so for me, she stood out amongst a very good unit this year at United.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think to keep 13 clean sheets,
Hmm.
she's been an integral part of that, playing every game of the league. So on that, we'll mention the two Millies. So I went with Millie Turner at Man United, Maya Le Tissier's centre-back partner, and you've gone with Millie Bright at
Yeah,
Chelsea, who won the league. And so I'll quickly touch on Millie Turner, then you can touch on why you chose your Millie. So Millie Turner for me, I feel like she goes under the radar. She's
hmm,
got height, she's quite tall, and she this year she got regained England call up again. So after 3 years out of the England squad, she got her first call up, and she earned it. Like I said, Man United was solid, consistent this season, and she's a part of that. I don't necessarily think she lacks. She maybe doesn't have the same quality as Maya Le Tissier, but she's a bit more no nonsense defending. She'll put her head where it doesn't. People don't always want to put their head. So she's not maybe as finesse as some of the top like elite defenders in the Super League, but she's consistent. She gives it all, and she's a leader in the dressing room. So where I think Maya Le Tissier is a bit more of a reserved character. If you have a look, you'll see glimpses. If you go watch Man United play, she's quite often the one that's leading the team talks when in the huddle, start of the match. She's geeing everyone up. She's a real big presence in the dressing room, and I think you can see that on the pitch. She's a leader, and so I think she goes on the radar, but she's a 7 out of 10 most weeks, and it's her consistency. Man United's clean sheets that I've put her in.
yeah,
Millie Bright for you then.
yeah. I mean, England international shock horror makes it into the team of the year, but I think it's difficult to look beyond, again, a defensive unit that has done really well this season. And at times, we've already spoken about Baltimore kind of rotating in and out. But at times, they've rotated the keepers, they've rotated Gurma in and out with other players. But Millie Bright seems to have been the constant. I was
Yeah.
looking the other day, and I think I read looking through the data, and like she won 96% of her area duels this year
Oh,
in,
she's a
in the
beast.
WSL. Just unbelievable when you've got the ability to just, like I said, 9.6 times out of 10 go up in the air and you're going to win the ball. For midfielders looking for that second ball, that's a dream where you go, right, Millie's up. She's definitely going to win this. So I know I can put myself here to receive this second ball. And again, a real leader. I think a lot of people were probably surprised when Williamson got the captaincy for England over Bright.
Hmm.
But I think they lead in their own distinct ways. But again, it's really difficult to look past the team that went unbeaten in the league with such a great defensive record this season, and she is at the moment the most important player in that defensive line for Chelsea. Obviously, Gurma's got the big money move and she's there now. We've spoken about her last week, the fact that you and I are pretty confident that we are not going to see the best of her until next season. But, I wonder if there's a part of them that looked at Germa and maybe thought to themselves, she could take over long term that role at Chelsea. Millie Bright isn't going to be there forever. That's not to say she's stopping anytime soon, but she isn't going to be there forever. The next best thing is to go get yourself one of the best defenders in the world to keep that high level, that elite level there. But we've not seen the best of Germa yet, and we won't till next season. For me, Millie Bright has been the best defender in the best team in the league. And so it would be remiss of me not to include her into my league team of the season.
Yeah, no, Millie Bright, like I said, she's not even a 7 out of 10 every week. She's an 8 or 9 out of 10
Yeah,
every week.
I mean,
She's
only an idiot wouldn't put her in
yeah.
their team of the year. So
Yeah, exactly. No, she's a machine.
yeah, she is.
Yeah, I think everyone can understand that. Okay, that's our defence covered. Lucy Bronze, I'll quickly mention. Obviously, Lucy Bronze, we don't really have to say a lot. You know, she's came this Chelsea season team and just fitted straight in. Obviously, she's worked with Sonia Bamposta before, and she's just slotted straight in and been a real presence. You can see her experience, her intent, her attack. You know, she's just been a great, formidable player that's delivered. And in the big moments, she's scored that goal to effectively win Chelsea the league. And so, yeah, she's just again a solid icon of the game, and an English British icon, for football. But yeah, great right
Yeah.
back.
I think there's an argument to say that she has, if you were put together like a women's team for the last 25 years, 2000 onwards,
She's there.
that she gets into that team. And really, the only talk point would be like, where do you play her? Because at one point she was playing, like, we forget, like, we talk about, inverted fullbacks now in the last couple of years, but Lucy Bronze played centre midfield for England about 5 or 6 years ago. And still like bossing the game. It was unreal. Yeah, she'll go down as an absolute English women's football legend, worldwide English football legend. And I think for me, the reason she didn't get him was firstly, I've gone with like a weird, like goalkeeper 3-2-3-2 because I wanted to get like the forwards in. But for me, like I wonder if sometimes she gets overlooked because it's like, well, yeah, that's what Lucy Bronze does. She's amazing. So of course she was amazing this season. But yeah, like so for me, it was purely like the shape of the other players and wanting to get in. Yeah, tactical. But also, I think there is a part of it that she's so good that as good as she's been this season, it's like, that's Lucy Bronze, isn't it? She's just amazing.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go into. Do you want to start? Who you've got in the? I say the centre mid position.
I've got my two centre midfielders, and again, this isn't a surprise, although I have changed one today. Okay. So I've gone with Caldente at Arsenal.
Okay, I put her as a forward, but go on.
Shock horror, play of the year, made it into my team of the year. And but I've also gone with Hasegawa at City.
Oh, she's a great player.
I know I've talked a lot about like Fagino this season and how much I love watching her play. For me, like Hasegawa, like just makes that team tick, and they've not had a great season this season, but I think she individually has been exceptional. And I just, again, thinking about the balance of the team, although my team will never, ever, ever play together as a team, like I think you need that constant ability to like recycle possession, keep the ball moving. But she's just amazing. Another one like really quite interesting to watch. Then Caldente, like I said, she was named like player of the year. I don't think anyone was surprised by that. All the goals she's got from midfield this season. Again, in an Arsenal team that pushed Chelsea right to the final weeks and are still to play a Champions League final. Again, I don't think anyone's going to be surprised about it, but those are the two that I've gone with.
I've got Caldente as well, but I suppose she can play multiple positions. She was more of a forward, but she has been brilliant. Like her stats are 9 goals, 5 assists. You can't argue with that. Do you know what I mean? She's just been a solid player for Arsenal and delivered again when they've needed someone. She's stepped in. She's produced an assist or produced a goal. just been a key player for them all season. And
Yeah.
going back to your point with Hasegawa, I've been a fan of her for a while, and I think it's also partly because I like those players that, you know, we all love not an underdog, but a player that quietly goes under the radar. If you watch her, because she's not a striker, she's not getting the goals, but she, like I said, she ticks, she helps with the tempo, she breaks up play, creates attack, and she's quite a little industrious little player with like endless energy. And yeah, big fan. So I'm
I
with you
don't
on that.
know. There seems to be like a real. I don't want to be like stereotypical anyway, but like it seems to be a real trait
Yeah.
within Japanese football. And actually, I've noticed this season how many Japanese players have come over to the WSL, and it's real easy to go, well, the one thing you'll get from them is effort, but like these Japanese players come and they are technically excellent players, and she's right up there. Like for me, reminds me a lot of like a Xavi, like just
Mm.
technically excellent. First touch is pretty much always impeccable. Recycles the ball quickly. Nothing too flash, nothing too fancy, but is just there when you need them. And teams, just especially teams who want to keep hold of the ball, they need a player like her. And yeah, I've just been so impressed with her this season. Like I said, City haven't had the best year this year, and I think probably if you look at her like goals or assist stats, that they're not gonna like widen your eyes or anything. Not in the way like Caldente, like we just spoke about. Like I said, I think every team needs a player like that who is like selfless and just keeps everybody else in receipt of the ball and in the right places. And I just, again, another player I love watching.
Well, on that, like, what do you think? What do you think Man City need to do this summer? What have they got to do to get to the heights where they want to be?
They need to decide on who their manager's going to be
Yeah,
first.
I think they're going to
Um,
stick with him. My feeling is, but I could be wrong. I don't know anything. I just
yeah, I mean, I don't know. Obviously, when Cushing first took over in that interim position, he
pull off a
himself said,
shock win,
like,
didn't you?
this is till the end of the season. I want to test myself in men's football, and I want to make that leap. But it seems as he's been there more working with the players, it almost seems like, well, maybe I will stay on. But the fact that they've not decided yet, and it's quite similar to the Liverpool situation with Amber Wheatley, like because if if they were like gonna be the ones to take over, I would have thought that something would have been finalised by now. The fact that it
Mm,
hasn't makes me wonder whether there are those within like the staff technical side of things are just not quite sure, or possibly waiting to see what happens after the Euros, or um, who else might become available. Obviously, like Joe Montemurro has just left Leon after a season to go and be the head coach with the Matildas back in Australia. And that's quite a surprise because he's only been at Leon for a season. But for Man City, for Liverpool, who are looking for potential like permanent managers, that puts like a big dog of women's football in the same market as them looking for a manager. So yeah, I think that's the first thing they need to do. I, I, I don't think it's like too basic to say as well. I think they have been unfortunate with injuries this season. You know, Greenwood's been a big miss. Hemp has been a big miss.
yeah.
Um, and obviously on
Chloe
top
Kelly
of that
left.
with Chloe Kelly as well. And that situation, that's an interesting one as well, because clearly her issue was with the previous manager. With him not being there now, her contract runs out at the end of this season, but there is still every chance that Man City will resign her. I think they would be silly not to. But again, do you make that decision before you get a manager in place?
Mm,
So yeah, it's I'm not too worried about them. What I would say is like we talk about like, oh, what Man City going to do to like get back up there. Like, how many WSL titles have they won?
did it one?
They're not perennial winners. It's
No.
not like Chelsea, like going from their position down to third or fourth in the WSL. Like Man City are where they are. Again, I would probably wager that their budget's probably slightly higher than Manchester United, but I would say it's probably on a par with Arsenal, maybe slightly below both them and Chelsea. And so it's not the be all and end all, but like the third highest budget in the league finishes third, or the fourth highest budget in the league finishes fourth.
It's
Are they
about where they
really
should be.
wildly out of sync? I'm not sure that they are.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, I mean,
Go on.
I was just going to say, I don't think there's like major surgery needed. There are great players in that squad. Like Bunny Shaw has missed the run into the season. I think had she not, I'm not sure Alessia Russo would be sharing that golden boot with her. I'm pretty certain Shaw would have gone and scored a few more. We've talked about how much like Fagino, but obviously bring Hemp back in. Miedemar has missed parts of the season here and there with injury. There are players there, and there are really good players there, but I think they have been unfortunate in terms of keeping players fit. We talked about Le Tissier, how important it is for a player to be available, and I think it's just this. I don't think there is a massive. It's not like I don't think they need like open heart surgery levels of change at the club, but I do think they need to sort out the staff, and I think that it would be ludicrous of them to let Chloe Kelly go. And like I said, if her issue was with the previous manager and she's happy to go back to City, that's a no-brainer deal for them.
I think they'd at least try. But
I mean, I think every team in the WSL who can afford her should be trying to sign her.
Yeah. Do you think she's done enough?
There's not a team in the league that she wouldn't make better.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. Like, she just would, because she's a good player.
A few months ago, we said Chloe Kelly had to hit the ground running. Do you think she's done enough over the last few months to warrant her place in the England team and to star or to make the squad?
That's a tough question. I don't think she has been exceptional at Arsenal. But who has been better? And also, can you expect a player to be exceptional after pretty much 6 months of not playing? The whole first half of the season, it's a few minutes here and there, or maybe a cup appearance. Like it's not like she was playing regularly and turned up at Arsenal completely match fit, ready to go. I think she's done really well at Arsenal. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. I'm not saying she's been poor, but I don't think you can ask a player just to be at the top of their game, like at the snap of your fingers. So I wasn't expecting that from her. But who? If you're talking about England selection coming back into the squad, I think I was a bit confused when she came in as injury cover pretty much straight away after the move to Arsenal. But yeah. I just think with the women's England squad, the talent pool is still in its infancy for women's football. There are great players out there, and there are great English players out there. But in terms of numbers, like we've talked about it, that there are only 12 teams in the top league of English women's football, and you could pretty much say that the bulk of the squad's going to come from 5 or 6 of those teams. And so straight away, in terms of just sheer numbers, the talent pool is not yet at a number where you could go, players who have proved themselves at that level in the past can just be ignored. I think that's probably, it's not just how good they're playing, but we are seeing Nikita Paris back in the England squad. We are seeing Fran Kirby back in the England squad. I think a big part of that is they've been there, they've done it. The manager knows they can handle the occasion, the level, whatever it may be. And it's a big risk to put a young player in or an untried player in. And so on that basis, you say she probably has earned her England spot, because when you do well as a player, I think you've got to feel like there's some cachet there, that you've made some deposits in the bank, and when things aren't quite going your way, whether it's injury, fall out with the manager in Kelly's case, whatever it may be, that you can turn to your national team manager and make some withdrawals and say, I'm not playing, but I am fit, I am here ready to go, and I can do it. Like at
Yeah.
the end of the day, she scored the winning goal at the last
It's a
Euros,
big deposit in the bank.
it's really difficult to ignore that body of work of the last 4 or 5 years. While it can be frustrating, I just think that's where we are at the moment with English women's football. There are small numbers of female players when in comparison to the men's game, and then on top of that, just as in the men's game, while there's big numbers, there's still only a very limited number of men who can play at international level, and that works the same. Except with the women's game, that small number of players who can play at the international level is already coming from a smaller pool of players. If I think if Serena Wiegman was being honest, she'd probably say in the WSL there's probably 40 to 50 players who could play at international level. But
Interesting. No, it's a fair
I can only take
observation.
30 odd of them. I mean, maybe she thinks there's fewer. I don't know, but the talent pool's there. And so with Chloe Kelly, like I said, she's been there, she's done it, she's got the experience, she's played at the top end of the WSL, she's played at the Euros, she's played at the World Cup. She's got enough credit in the bank for her to be in that squad, and now she's playing regularly. Nobody can turn around and say, well, she's not even playing, because she is now.
Yeah, I agree. Described that very well. Let's go to our next players. So I had in my centre mids, I had Grace Clinton and Ella Toone. So,
Double pivot.
yeah, exactly. Grace Clinton, I know we've both been fans of her,
Yeah.
but overall, in general, this season, she's showed potential. She was brilliant at Tottenham, and then she's come to Man U, and she's continued that progression trajectory. She's scored 8 league goals this season. She's scored quite a few headers. She's like great in the air, but she's solid. She uses her height and her size. She's strong. She doesn't mind putting her foot in, and I think she's a real combative midfielder. And I think, especially like I said, Stanway had big injuries and like being out for big parts of the season, her place is under threat, and Grace Clinton has every right to potentially take that position.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think she's been great.
She was very close to selection with my team. So she would have gone on my honourable mentions because I think she has been excellent. Same with Toone. For me, I've just been really impressed with her kind of moving more into that kind of number 8 role, that more like box to box energy. And like you said, like we said tonight, and what we said previously, with Stanway still yet to play a game this season, that's going to be vital. And she's another one in that same kind of mould with Chloe Kelly of having, I've got some credit in the bank, and only so many players can do what Stanway does. And I think I think that at the World Cup, I think that's probably somewhere that I felt that we were a little bit light of a player who could play next to Kira Walsh. But I think in Clinton and Stanway, even George Stanway, who hasn't played this season, I think there's still, I think there's some strength there. And I know we're going to cover the England squad in a bit, but just a shout out to Missy Kearns as well. I was really surprised when she left Liverpool at the end of last season. I would really like to know kind of what happened there, how a player who's come through the academy, is from the city, and had that much talent was allowed to go. Lots of things could be happening now. I don't know, but for me, she's another one who can do that kind of high energy role. So now it looks as though we've gone from kind of having one in Stanway at the World Cup and me feeling we're a bit light. So all of a sudden there's 3 there at least who can kind of do that role next to Kira Walsh, and I think that's great for the Lionesses. But yeah, Grace Clinton was right up there on my consideration list as an honour, and also Ella Toone as an honourable mention. It's not a bad double pivot.
No, Ella Toone, for me, last season, I think she was off it. We saw her at the Euros where she was great, and then, I don't know, last season, players have that naturally. You have cycles where you have a good season, and then you have a season when you're off it. But this season, I feel like she obviously had personal circumstances at the beginning of the season. I think it was the beginning of this season. or end of last season now, with her father passing. She's come back stronger, she's got fitter, and I think just her form picked up and she was getting goals and assists where she wasn't quite doing that last year, and it's just been great to see her back to her best, really. So that's why she was included. So, forwards then. Do you want to go first? Who you've got in yours?
So you going 2, 3, and 1, or have you got?
Yeah, something like
I've
that.
got
Yeah,
I've got three
yeah.
attacking midfielders. So my three, I've gone with Olivia Smith at Liverpool. I've gone with Mary Fowler at City, and I've gone with Vivian Assaye at West Ham.
We've gone quite different. So I had Caldente as one of my forward midfielders, and I've
Yeah,
got
yeah.
Russo. We've obviously covered Caldente. I've got Russo, Written Kennyard, and Vivian Miedema. So, do you want to go through your three first and why you picked them?
Yeah, so Mary Fowler has finished the season in the most horrible way with an ACL injury, and that's a huge, again, another Man City player went down. I think at one point this season, I think she might have become the first player in the WSL to have a goal involvement or a goal and an assist in like 5 games on the bounce or something stupid. I, I was doing a podcast tonight. I probably should have had that stat to hand. But she has just been exceptional and so consistent this season. 6 goals, 7 assists. Again, I just feel so sorry for her that the season has ended with that massive injury. And it's just a real shame. Again, for Man City, we've talked about how they've lost a lot of players with injury this season. And she, again, at a crucial time of the season, it's another one that they lost. But I think this season she's come over and has just been absolutely exceptional. Vivian Assaye at West Ham, again, West Ham, a team that has finished 9th out of 12, and she's come in this season, and probably had a, you know, she's been really consistent for West Ham. 27 goals in 81 appearances, but this season 9 goals, 6 assists, 21.
Wow.
She seems to be getting better, and
It's a great return, isn't it?
oh, a great return in a team that isn't known for like scoring lots of goals. And I just thought her free kick this weekend against Leicester City, like edge of the area but out near the corner flag, and just stick it in top bins of the near post, was just wild to me. I don't know many people who'd even from that position. It's like, well, she's definitely going to put this into the box. But no, I'm just going to smack it in top bins and just take everyone by surprise. I just think she's had an exceptional season this season.
Yeah, with those stats, it didn't surprise me because whenever something good's happened with West Ham, she's always involved. Like whether it's the assist or the goal itself,
Oh,
she's always a big part of it.
yeah. And then, again, people might accuse me of Liverpool bias, but I've gone with Olivia Smith. I think
I've got it as a worthy
she has
mention, so
been she has been one of the few bright sparks at Liverpool this season. Her pace is just, even with the ball, it's wild. First season, you know, cost cost Liverpool a pretty penny, in the last summer transfer window. But if she keeps doing what she's doing, they can make a profit on that. If she decides that she is going to leave, it's my biggest worry this summer is that Liverpool are going to lose her and they're not going to finalise the San Care loan, and we're back to kind of where we were with a pretty basic squad. But she's stardust, pace unreal, 7 goals in her first season. I think she's the most fouled player in the WSL, which tells you how difficult it is to deal
I
with her.
think she's had 9 goals in all competitions as well. It's a really good start, and for someone that's just 18 as well.
And again, what I would say is that is, again, also in a team that isn't exactly known for scoring lots of goals. I found it difficult at times to watch Liverpool this season because it was almost a case of like, well, we'll set up like this, and if we're in the game after 80 minutes, brilliant. But she has been so fun to watch, and I hope, as a Liverpool fan, she's at the club for years. But as you know, as a WSL fan, I hope she's in the league for a while, because again, it's just great fun to watch. Again,
Yeah.
debut season as well, first season in the league, putting up some good numbers, citing only 20 years old. For me, I think there's a huge ceiling there. Really,
Yeah.
really big potential. Yeah, like I said, my big worry this summer is, can they keep hold of her?
Yeah, I agree completely. And you're right, she's starting to fulfill that potential, and be interesting to see how she carries on over the next few years.
Yeah.
I had her in my worthy mentions, so I'm glad we're kind of agreed on that in a sense. I'll go with so I had obviously Alessia Russo been brilliant. We got the joint golden boot with Bunny Shaw, who
Yeah.
just shows you how prolific Bunny Shaw is, that she missed a third of the season and still finished joint top scorer. So she's in our worthy mentions, but
Oh, she's in
yeah,
your worthy mention. She's in my
yeah.
start, mate.
Okay. But yeah, because you've done your forwards.
Yeah,
But
so
we'll come
I've
to her
got
in a
two
moment.
up
Go on,
front.
give us.
So we'll talk about Russo when you talk about Russo. So
Okay. Well,
who were you had who were your other
uh,
attacking midfielders?
so I had Reetin Kennerad and Vivian Miedemar. So I'll talk on them, then we'll cover
Go on then.
Russo
Go on.
and
Pitch me.
Miedemar. I think for her, she had 7 goals and 1 assist in 11 games. She had a stop-start season with her injuries, but to get those kind of numbers, it just shows the quality she's got. And we know, she's an icon of the league. She just oozes quality. Rarely plays more than every other game, but still produces when they need her. So
Can
that's
I
why.
just can I just say, obviously we talked about some like base stuff with some players in terms of availability, and we talked about Baltimore in terms of like the changes
Yeah,
in her coming to
rotation.
Chelsea. I think for Miedemar, what I've been really impressed with is she clearly was happy to stay at Arsenal and wanted to stay at Arsenal as her first option for lots of different reasons. But she, had Arsenal offered her a contract last season, and it was a fair, contract that reflected her worth, she would have signed it and she would have stayed there. Uh, it's not a massive change, but it is still a change. New teammates, new surroundings, a change in her domestic life. And obviously, coming off the back of such a long injury, I think at there were aspects of Arsenal's decision that I could understand, but for her to be able to put that all to the back of her mind and play as well as she has this season with you, she didn't make my team purely because I think she probably has missed a bit too much football this season. And while I'm glad they've not been serious injuries as the knee injury at Arsenal, I think next season, she's got a bit of football under her belt after a big injury. I think next season, I would expect her to be far more robust and available for far more often. And we've spoken about injuries that have maybe affected Man City. That's another one there. But I think, like I said, for me, I think the most impressive part for me, as an outsider looking in, as a fan watching the game, it seemed to me, like I said, that she was intent and quite happy to stay at Arsenal, and it didn't happen. And she seems to have kind of rolled with the punch, gone up to City, and played some great football. At times, playing in centre midfield this
Yeah.
season as well. Like, this isn't just like, oh, she's just nipped up the M6 and changed teams. Like, it's a bit more than that. And I think, again, that's a part of football fandom that maybe we don't appreciate with professional players. But yeah, like I said, for me, I'm glad you put her in. Like I said, for me, it was purely just lack of availability. But I'm really glad that she made it into one of our teams, because I think she has really overcome something there that I don't think's talked.
Yeah, no, I think really well put. So let's go on to our forwards then. So we've both got Russo. So let's
Yeah.
discuss her. Where do you want to start?
Well, I'll tell. My other forward is Bunny Shaw. Like, shock horror, I managed to get the
The
two
two
top
joint
goal
top
scorers in
scorers.
the league. Um, we spoken about Bunny Shaw, and but with Russo, I think this season her all-round game has just taken a huge leap. Again, watching watching the game against Man United at the Emirates last Sunday, just her build-up play and her link-up play has just gone to another level this season, and it's made her such an impressive all-round forward. And I think she's still only 23, 24. Like,
Yeah.
there's still room in that ceiling to improve and to reach the levels of other great strikers around the world. But for me, there are not many better all-round forwards in the game at the moment in this game. And Kerr has an eye for goal, and you give her the ball within the 18-yard box, sometimes outside the 18-yard box as well, but within the 18-yard box between the posts, and you could put a significant amount of money on that the ball's going to end up in the back of the net. But for me, just she had a really tricky start to the season, wasn't always starting, wasn't always getting the minutes, and I don't know whether it is the change of manager or I think it probably is.
I reckon so. The coaching must have changed.
Yeah, I can't imagine that she was sulking at the start of the season or like being like a bad personality around the training ground or anything. She just doesn't strike me as that type of person. But so for me, I've got to give some credit here to Renee Slagers as well. But at the end of the day, like, a player's like improvement will always the buck stops with them. Like, the coaches can do their work and the analysts can do their work, but the player's the one who's got to go out and all the things they're told, put them into practice. And I think for me, she's taken a huge leap this season. And we always knew she was a good goal scorer. But like I said, for me, the way she works the channels down both sides, the way she creates space for other people, and like I said, her link-up play, her build-up play, it's just for me, you've just noticed it take a huge leap this year, and that puts her right in the top echelons of the forwards around the world. And she fully deserved to share that golden boot this season. And it's no shock to me she's made it to both our teams.
No, and she's nailed on starter for England. Obviously, there's no kind of questions about that. But you're right, her link up plays what's improved so much in the past year. It's how tidy she is. So if you watch her link up play, strikers will knock down a ball and sometimes it goes to their teammate, sometimes more often than not it doesn't. But with her, she's very tidy where if she knocks it down, or she'll make sure that when she's bringing other players into play, she never loses or rarely loses possession. And that's what's been impressive.
Yeah.
So, yeah, great.
The only difference, obviously, first was I put Bunny Shaw in. 12 starts. 10 starts, 12 goals. Missed the last however many games of the season and still was the joint top goal scorer. Like, just her physical attributes are brilliant, and she is just, again, like Sam Kerr, give her the ball inside the 18-yard box between the sticks, and I'll put everything I have on it ended up in the back of the net. She is just insanely efficient with the ball and with her finishes, and another player who's had some issues this season in terms of abuse received on social media, and like I said, injury to the back end, and her to put in those performances this season has just been brilliant. It's for me, just a real shame she wasn't able to finish out the season, because I think there was every chance she could have gone and got 20 goals this season.
Yeah, agreed. She would have been in and around those kind of figures. And you're right. She's just, whenever she plays for Man City, she must breathe confidence into all her teammates, because she just seems like something's going to happen. When she's got the ball and she's getting supply from her teammates, she always feels like, when she gets the ball, it's like there's a good chance it's going to end up in a goal or she's going to set up a goal. She's just
Yeah.
a serious threat going forward.
You
So
love playing with those players. You put all
yeah,
that effort in to get down the wing, or you play a great pass. What's the worst thing that happens? You do all that work as a team to get the ball into that final third and into the box, and then it's spooned wide or it's mishit or it goes over, and it's kind of like, it's football. We're not going to score every attack, but with her, you just like. There's every chance that pretty much everything that is given to her in the right position is going to go in, and it just makes it so much easier for her teammates. A big reason why, again, injuries for her at the back end of the season. It's a big reason why Man City shouldn't be too worried in terms of the talent they have at their disposal for next season. But yeah, so just a recap. So my team of the year, I've got Tullis-Joyce with Le Tissier, Millie Bright, and Baltimore in the back three. Caldente and Hasagawa as my two, my midfield pivot.
yeah,
I've got Olivia Smith, Mary Fowler, Vivian Assaye, and then I've got Shaw and Russo.
it's an amazing team, isn't it?
Yeah,
So
smashing
I've
team.
Tullis-Joyce, Lucy Bronze back, Millie Turner and Maya Le Tissier, power pair with all those clean sheets as double centre back pairing. At left back I had Sandy Baltimore, Grace Clinton and Ella Toone as the double pivot, and then Caldente, Panyard and Miedema as the forwards, and the striker Russo. So yes, a couple of worthy mentions. Just quickly, I think we've covered most of them. Worthy mentions to Hannah Hampton. Obviously, she's claimed, at the moment, it looks like she's claimed the England #1 spot from Mary Earps, and she's been excellent. Also kept 13 clean sheets, joint Golden Glove with Tullis-Joyce, albeit Tullis-Joyce, again, I think the reason we've chosen as well is that she did it in a team that's nowhere, the quality level compared to Chelsea. Shakira Martinez for West Ham, 9 goals in 10 games.
Wild.
German international, came from Frankfurt. Brilliant. Another one I thought, like Emily Fox for Arsenal, just caught my eye a few times. She's really composed, really clever with the ball. Nice attacking fullback for Arsenal. And Elizabeth Terland, again, it's been difficult. 10 goals, 5 assists for Man United. Really consistent job.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's not loads that I want to add to that, but I want to give a little shout out to Ruby Mace at Leicester.
Oh, yeah.
Again, another player, kind of unfortunate timing of injuries at the back end of the season. Again, not it's not exactly rocket science, but Katie McCabe, I think, has had another wonderful season at Arsenal. Her assist for the goal last Saturday was just perfectly weighted pass. And there was one other, but it slipped my mind. So
If it comes, you can mention
if it comes, I'll shout it out. I'll just randomly shout a player's name. Yeah.
We're at 56 minutes. Should we do the talking points and should we do the England squad later next week?
We could do
Or
it
do you
all
wanna
next
just
week
touch-
because there's no games, so
Okay.
we'll save some ammunition.
Okay.
Does that work for you?
Yeah. Any last thoughts before closing?
It's still in my head, and I can't remember that player. Mace.
Ruben Mace. I've got Gabby George as well. Left back for Man United. Came back from last season. Had a horrific ACL injury at Everton and came back. And at Man United, done a decent job.
Yeah, I think. Oh, that was it. That's what I remembered. So there's actually two. Just a quick shout out for Beth England. Again, I think we've extolled her virtues this season. Another one who's kind of hit by injury towards the back end of the season. Ebony Salmon has had a really strong end to the season. Another player with just absolute wheels, pace to burn. She had a really strong end to the season. I was a bit surprised that she wasn't maybe called up to train with the England squad. Maybe it will still happen, I don't know. But she was one that kind of burst onto the scene really young and then has kind of had quiet and then seems to have come back. And I think her season has very much mirrored Villa's in the sense of as the new manager has come in at Villa, got her feet under the table and kind of started, the team has improved in the last kind of the back end of the season under her leadership, and that has seemed to have mirrored with Salmon. So I've got fingers crossed for next season that with a whole season at Villa, maybe we'll see some consistency and get some of these performances. I think if she can, get a few more goals, a few more assists, and hopefully have a knock in on the door again with the England selection, because pace is really hard to defend against, and the pace that she has is really, really frightening.
I agree fully. Really impressed with Salmon, and I think she's knocking on the England door very much so. Okay, let's wrap up there. Thank you everyone for listening, and we shall see you next time.